We talked about how fats can become rancid fairly easily when exposed to heat and oxygen. In order to be able to have fats that have a shelf life, how do we actually protect them so they don't go rancid? You can add antioxidants. And yes, they are considered, some of them are considered preservatives. So they're going to be compounds that are going to help protect lipids from being oxidized because they sacrifice themselves and get oxidized instead of the fat. BHA, BHT, if you look at the labels on some of your fatty products, you will see that they have BHA, BHT, or BHT, as well as vitamin C and D act as antioxidants. And actually, they are really good to have in terms of adding a number of these vitamins to your diet because, again, they prevent a lot of things from becoming oxidized, not just fats. And we'll talk more about antioxidants when we're talking about the vitamin section. Watch that. A great little description of both antioxidants and free radicals and why consuming antioxidants will be super important. Now, hydrogenation is another way that we can add to fat stability. When you hear hydrogenated oils or hydrogenated fats, they've gone through this process. So what happens is they take a monounsaturated fat or a polyunsaturated fat and they put them through a chemical process and they actually artificially add hydrogen molecules where there were double bonds. So those double bonds are broken and they stuff in hydrogen atoms. And I'm pausing here because, and I'm saying here because trans fats arise from this process. And trans fats are something that you should never eat in your life. Some hydrogenation seems to be acceptable. Trans fats are not. And we're going to be talking more about trans fats throughout the rest of this course. And hopefully I'll bring you into the light and get you to avoid trans fats because they really are bad for you. Hydrogenation turns those unsaturated fats into more saturated fats. You can also seal fats in airtight containers. If they don't have exposure to oxygen, they can't oxidize. That's why you will find some fats found in vacuum sealed packages, including jars, when you buy them. Great video on how to store oil for longevity. Make sure you watch that. Problem solved. And there is indeed a big downside to having polyunsaturated fats undergo hydrogenation because the health benefits are lost. And in fact, as I mentioned, hydrogenation, that whole process can make fats dangerous to your health. We talked about the structure of fatty acids. When they're in their normal form, they're considered cis. They have a cis shape or a cis structure. And when they have undergone hydrogenation, they have that trans structure where the hydrogens that are added are across from one another. You have a different configuration for the fatty acid. And nutritionally speaking, that configuration for that fatty acid is unhealthy. Why? One of many reasons includes this. Remember our lovely phospholipid bilayer? You do use some fatty acids. You do use fatty acids in your phospholipid bilayer, yes? So when those trans fats are actually used as the fatty acid tails for that phospholipid bilayer, that cell membrane loses its ability to adapt and move and be flexible and accept things or allow things to move back and forth across it easily. So basically you move this lovely fluid, flexible cell membrane into a structure that is more rigid, which is not healthy for your cells. That's one of many reasons trans fats are bad, and we'll go over more as we go through this semester. This shows you a transoleic acid. We saw that. This is just a sketch, a line diagram, and that shows you the cisoleic acid. That curve that you have there, that kink, those are important because our body actually recognizes those. We adapted, we evolved to recognize cis configurations. We did not evolve to recognize trans configurations. Trans fatty acids also behave more like saturated fats. And there are multiple studies and a lot of research that show a link between trans fatty acids and cardiovascular disease and trans fatty acids and cancer. This shows you a major source of trans fatty acids, all types of margarine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can read through that. Now, why is it in these products? It's in these products because it gives them it increases their shelf life incredibly. Margarine has a shelf life of 144 months. You see best used by dates on packages, and that's because people don't want margarine sitting around for 144 months. When you hear that 144 months, that doesn't sound so much, right? But 12 months in a year, 144 months. Yes, 12 years. Majority of margarines have a shelf life of 12 years. So yes, indeed, hydrogenation does an incredible job of extending the shelf life products. I am sure you have seen the bold advertising on packages of potato chips, for example, that say 0 grams trans fats. There was a big movement to get rid of trans fats in the US, and the food processing lobby fought so incredibly hard, or labeling. They were either trying to get rid of them, or the packages had to be labeled if they had trans fat, and that the food processing lobby fought so hard that you can have 0.5 gram of trans fats in a serving because of the food lobby. So when you see a package that says 0 grams trans fats, it really means it just falls below the number that the government agreed to allow and will actually contain trans fats. I hope that makes sense. Here is a rule of thumb that I use. If a package says 0 grams trans fats, I just move along, because if they're advertising that they don't have trans fats in them, they are going to have trans fats in them, just in quotes, relatively low amounts. Everybody sit up and take notice, because nutritionists who are in the know, and research has proven this, the amount of trans fats that you should eat in your lifetime is this: none. How many grams of trans fats should you eat in your lifetime? 0. So when you look at these foods, oh great, I want some potato chips, Skippy peanut butter, just peanut butter, deep fried foods or imitation cheeses, yikes. Margarine, run, Toto, run. Fresh food. And the closer to the source, i.e. the grower or the raiser, if you're eating meat, the better off you are. Watch this video on trans fats. And here's another one put out by WHO on trans fats. And then this, which is better, butter or margarine? I bet you can tell what I'm going to say, and I'm sure you know what this video will say, but find out why.